Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Turner. I'm the President and CEO of the Gilroy Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you to our 2020 Mayoral Candidate Forum with Councilmember Marie Blankley and Reid Lerner. We're glad that you're with us tonight. We expect to have a good conversation. Before we get started, though, I did want to give a brief update on the SCU fire complex. As of this morning, these statistics are what we're looking at here. The fire was 35% contained and had over 1,900 personnel fighting the fire, along with 233 engines, 42 bulldozers, and 17 helicopters working to contain the fire. So our thoughts and prayers are still with our firefighters and our emergency personnel, along with those who have been evacuated from their areas. We hope that they'll be back home soon and that this fire will be under greater control and eventually put out in just quick order. So Marie and Reid, thank you for being with us tonight. I'd like to, just before we get started, give you both an opportunity to introduce yourself, not only to our audience tonight, but to those who will be watching this broadcast later. So Marie, let's start with you.
Sure. I'm Councilwoman Marie Blankley. I am a lifelong Gilroy resident. I have 2 grown children. I am a CPA. I am not retired. My reason for running for mayor is the same as my reason for running for city council in 2018. And that was to apply my background as a CPA to address the financial stability of Gilroy, my hometown, the only town I've ever called home and that I care deeply for. I initially got right into the finances. I was appointed to the council a few months before I got elected, and I could see right away what was happening with our finances. It was primarily an unfunded liability issue that was going to put us in the red pretty soon. So I wanted to address that, and to see what I managed to do in the 2.5 years that I've been on the council, you could go to my website and look under accomplishments. That will tell you. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Marie.
That's good enough.
Reid, go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Reid Lerner. I'm running for mayor in the city of Gilroy. I'm an architect with an office downtown. I'm running for mayor because I believe Gilroy's best days are ahead. And I know that if we work together, we can create a beautiful and sustainable community. With my professional experience as an engineer and planner, along with my history of community involvement, I am ready to step into the leadership position for the city of Gilroy. My particular passion, the real reason I get into the race is because our downtown is struggling. And Gilroyans really deserve a strong, healthy, prosperous Central Core. I think the city of Gilroy needs some independent leadership focused on the future of our downtown and the future of our local economy. As past president of the Downtown Business Association, I am committed to making our downtown thrive. We have empty buildings that are perfect for new businesses, and we have open sidewalks that are perfect for pedestrians and customers. I'm also passionate about arts and education. I founded the Gilroy Arts Alliance, which is the group that meets at the Gilroy Center for the Arts. I look forward to working with the City Council, city staff, Chamber of Commerce, and the community to improve the quality of our life. Thank you.
Thank you, Reid. Well, we have a series of about 10 questions we're going to be walking through over various topics. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the questions that are asked. If they want to respond to one another, they can, but it comes of their 2 minutes on the following question. So here we go. Marie, I'm going to start the first question with you.
All right.
On March 17th of this year, we received orders to shelter in place. We've been under that order or modified versions of that order for over 5 months. Businesses have been open and closed again. There's a tremendous frustration level and concern growing on the part of the business community about the inconsistencies with regards to how these rules apply to different business sectors. Businesses are beginning to close their doors for good. What would you like to say to Gilroy's business owners and operators? And secondly, if you are elected mayor, how will you lead the city's efforts in dealing with the county and the state?
Oh, thank you, Mark. I'm all over that. I initiated regular meetings with both our county leadership, Mike Wasserman's office, and with Robert Rivas, for exactly those reasons. And that was even before the pandemic started, because I know that unless we keep those lines of communications open, it's critical to effective working relationships that will bring state and county resources to Gilroy. There's no other way to do it. This pandemic has accelerated beyond belief the threat to our financial stability, the threat to our businesses, the threat to everybody. This is not our problem alone. It's going on everywhere. We are limited in what we can do as a city based on the state and the county guidelines who are responsible for their health department rules. I would like to see Gilroy businesses and residents, I would like to encourage them to prevent the spread. Let us move on with businesses in a way that is safe, instead of this constant threat of coming and having to impose regulations and fine people for being out, the fight against wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Let's just all be open. Let's have our businesses open and do it safely so that we can minimize the risk here. As a city, as the city councilwoman, we've already been trying to support the local businesses with some grant money, with efforts to offer whatever they need, closing down streets if that's the case in downtown, advertising, promoting, having people spend locally, making sure that Gilroy is the place where you spend your money instead of someplace else in these tough times. Now we have the COVID restrictions are all the counties, whereas before we had the ability to go to other counties for certain businesses that were open. Today it's just here. It's a tough situation for everybody. But it's tough, but it's critical to have these relationships with our county and state. And I feel like I've got that. And I'm very happy to say that with that, we at least have a seat at the table. We're at the table. That's all we can do.
Thank you, Marie. Reid, that question to you, and I'm happy to repeat the question if you'd like.
Would you please repeat the question?
Yes, I'd be happy to, yeah. On March 17th of this year, we received orders to shelter in place, and we've been under those orders, or modified version thereof, for 5 months. Businesses have been open and closed and open and closed again. There is tremendous frustration and concern growing on the part of the business community about the inconsistencies with regards to how these rules apply to different business sectors. Businesses are beginning to close their doors for good. What would you like to say to those Gilroy business owners and operators? And secondly, if you are elected mayor, how will you lead the city's efforts in dealing with the county and the state?
Okay, thank you. Big question. We'll try a couple parts. I'm going to first say that fortunately or unfortunately, my business as an architect and being part of the construction industry, we were considered essential businesses. And for the most part, we stayed open. My firm does things like satellite dishes and petroleum storage tanks and data centers and warehouses. So we started with social distancing and personal protective equipment here in the office. We did find a little humor in this because people in the construction industry, a lot of it already wear masks and already wear gloves. So that was another reason that the construction industry was allowed to go ahead as an essential business. The next question is about what do I say to businesses that are really struggling or failing. And I have real deep sympathy. I have personal connections. My friends' businesses have failed. Some of my clients have failed. Their life's dream of opening a restaurant or other business doesn't look like it's going to happen. It's really pretty awful. And then what can the city do? I think we hit pretty strongly on the important parts of coordinating with state and county representatives so that we can work together and instead of having different goals. And then I'd like to suggest perhaps the city could strengthen their buy local policy and make sure that our local businesses are getting all the assistance they can with the city itself purchasing, Gavilan College in purchasing, the school district purchasing. I think that could make a difference.
Thank you. And I'm going to do a follow-up on that particular question because I know it's important to have good relationships with county and state as the Chamber President and CEO, we have those relationships in place as well. Lines of communication are flowing, but what can be done from the city level to fight more intensely for our business community? What could be done? What sort of a game plan could we assemble and go to the county and to the state and demand a little bit more from them with regard to these restrictions and how they might loosen those restrictions to get businesses open again? Marie.
Oh, thank you. I think the Chamber of Commerce has shown the exact example of that. I mean, I've been meeting with Mike Wasserman every month. We've been a lot of it's been telephone because we can't do the in-person anymore, but you know how hard we have worked to try. So the answer to that question is getting organized. We've had a few individuals that have been very diligent about their email streams and their contacts. We can't do in-person visits during all this. So that's the way to do it. You have to make your voice heard. That's what it means to be at the table. You make your voice heard. It's very difficult to ask for something different for Gilroy or for our county than is happening elsewhere in the state. So you need to be aware of what's going on elsewhere, what they're up against, what the health officer's authority is, and what can you do if you want to circumvent whatever that authority is, if that's what you think is the problem. But the answer to the question is to be at that table and to be diligent and repeated about those concerns in their ear. I know Mike heard us loud and clear. I mean, we were in his ear all the time, and that's what needs to happen.
Reid.
I will second what Marie said, and then I'd like to add to that there are other people within the county that we need to be talking to. Mike Wasserman is our supervisor, our primary representative, but I think we need to have direct conversations with the Department of Health, Department of Environmental Health. And I think we need to have direct conversations with other county departments that are making the decisions. And having a relationship, not just when there's an emergency, but an ongoing relationship, as you pointed out. I also think we need to bring in the private sector and as our allies, so that the big businesses that really produce and make Silicon Valley happen are also the ones that are, we'll say, applying the pressure. It's one thing to hear from your local politicians. It's another thing to hear from your local banker or your local property owners. So that's where I think we ought to work also, is to try to get more private and corporate voices speaking to the county and the state.
Thank you, Reid. Reid, I'm going to come back to you on this next question. The Gilroy Economic Development Partnership, which is made up of the Gilroy Chamber of Commerce, the Economic Development Corporation, Visit Gilroy, the Downtown Business Association, and Gilroy Gardens, recently made a presentation to the City Council regarding their goal of making Gilroy a recreation destination supported by 3 key initiatives. Those 3 key initiatives are the sports park, the 536 acres where Gilroy Gardens is located, and Gourmet Alley in downtown. The City Council approved of the idea and plans to adopt a resolution next month supporting this statement of intent. What are your thoughts on the goal of Gilroy becoming a recreation destination and the 3 key initiatives? Reid, I'm sorry, I was going to you first.
I apologize here. I think that Gilroy does have to focus on being a destination, and recreation, I believe, is part of tourism. And yes, I think that we need to be much more aggressive about having tourists come to Gilroy and enjoy not only our shopping malls, but our recreation areas. I also know that people that are using the nearby reservoirs for boating or the nearby parks for motorcycles would also like to come to Gilroy to have a nice dinner, stay at a hotel. I'd like to suggest that we complement the community vision or get started on the vision by getting more places for visitors to stay, i.e. hotels, bed and breakfast, boutique hotels, things like that. It's my understanding that we really don't have enough amenities to provide. So I support the community village, and I think we live in a very competitive world, and we need to work hard to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Reid. Marie?
I'm just going to touch quickly on the last question. I wanted to say that I have been in touch too with Dr. Marty Fensterscheib. We've gone back and forth with texting and emails to help. He reports, he's the health officer reporting directly here. And the best we could do as a city is to be able to facilitate with testing sites. And so we did that, and it was touch and go until we got the one over at Del Bono School, which has been immensely successful and continues to be open. So there we are with that. Okay, the 3 initiatives. Full support. I love the idea of the recreation and tourism destination concept for those 3 initiatives, which are out Hecker Pass and at the sports park and Gourmet Alley downtown, either between 4th and 6th or maybe between 4th and 7th. Those 3 initiatives and that type of designation are perfect for those areas. I think that's a vision. I would like to see us start now, which we are. We're starting as a city council. We're starting now with addressing those things because we need enough lead time. We need to accommodate the lead time that it's going to take to have a document or a plan that we can actually execute. And I am hoping that we've got something to execute within a year. So help me. I don't want it to take longer than that because it has to be part of our financial recovery. We are in trouble. This pandemic has accelerated our financial stability problems, and it's not going to come, the solutions are not going to come just from reducing our expenses and our service levels. We have to be far more aggressive about what we're going after in terms of recovery. And even though we can't get something started now because we're still in the pandemic, we can certainly be ready, have a plan ready to execute. So very good job. I want the public to know that does not preclude other types of jobs from the community. We're just saying that's the theme for these 3 areas.
Thank you, Marie. Marie, we're going to come back to you for this question.
Okay.
What is your overall vision for Gilroy?
My overall vision for Gilroy. Okay, I wasn't expecting that question. Financially sustainable for years to come. That would be my main vision because I don't see anything else as possible if you can't pay for it. You have to figure out how you're going to fund something in order to do it. The ideas are fabulous, you know, drawing things on paper, having conversations, dreaming, that's wonderful. But without the money, it's not going to go anywhere. So my vision starts with financial sustainability. And that's going to come in pieces. I championed the start of a pension trust that the council passed last November. That's going to help us with this growing unfunded pension liability. It's just a vehicle. I don't want to suggest that it's a way of generating money, but it's a vehicle that allows the council to commit money for the purpose of paying down that debt. And then I've got all kinds of other plans as to what else we can do. But for now, I'm very proud to have at least accomplished that much because sustainability is the biggest thing. And then beyond that, of course, our parks. I mean, Gilroy is wow. Gilroy is a wow city. When you come here and you drive around, it's beautiful. And a lot of most of the developments that we've already done are still beautiful. And I have friends and family who come and visit, and we go to other parts of the town, and they're flabbergasted at the beauty and the developments that we have around here. So those things are great. I would like to see recreation be a much bigger deal. That is the one thing that has not suffered or seems to have not suffered in this pandemic is people want to get outside. The businesses that are doing cycling and that are doing motorhomes or RVs, those are the ones that are doing crazy. I would love to see a lot of that going around in town. I would love to see more jobs that pay better, that require some level of education. I'd like to see that come to Gilroy. And then we might actually be able to have a community that's a little more, not well-rounded, it's not the word I mean, but that is more conducive to all of our residents being able to live and work in Gilroy.
Thank you, Marie. Reid.
Can I get the question again, please, Mark?
Absolutely. Of course. What is your overall vision for Gilroy?
I'm going to have a couple answers for this. I'm going to start with the residential part of it. And As an architect, I can point to a house that's for sale that I designed. It's 5,000 square feet. It's up on Tea Tree Way. There's a website for it. People want to look at what I think housing in Gilroy ought to look like. They're welcome to look at that. They're also welcome to come downtown and look what we've done here. The building that my office is in was formerly a thrift store. The building next door was built as a bank. It sat empty for a couple of years. It's now a shopping mall. Next door to that is Intero Real Estate. Used to be a grocery store. So if you'd like to see my vision for downtown or my vision for the city, I'd be happy to give you a physical tour. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Reid. And Reid, we're going to come back to you for this question, and you're going to get to stay with the downtown, because the question is, how would you describe our downtown?
I think our downtown has a lot of potential, particularly since we've encouraged the property owners to fix up their buildings, but we have a lot of vacancy. We've got tens of thousands of square feet of empty buildings. So we need to be smart and get some really good tenants in those buildings.
Very good. Thank you, Reid. Marie, how would you describe our downtown?
Okay, I would describe our downtown as clean. I think the things that the city has been able to do, we have kept it clean, we've got it well lit. I mean, there are a lot of improvements that the city has done. We are keeping our streets and sidewalks in good condition downtown. What I'd like to see us do is enforce parking restrictions on business owners and employees who seem to ignore, they just disregard the time limits for parking and therefore never turn over a convenient parking space to a customer. I'd like to make sure that the city removes obstacles. We've been getting there, but we need to remove obstacles within city regulations where we can, and earn Gilroy a can-do reputation to existing and potential businesses, because if we can earn ourselves that reputation, it'll be a lot easier for people to think, oh, let's go to Gilroy, instead of the reputation that it's so difficult down there. I'd also like to see us cooperating. I'm sorry, I had to put my glasses on because I try to keep myself on track here. Cooperate with and support events that promote downtown when requested by the downtown businesses. I'm not one to presume to know what the businesses down there want. That's for those business owners. And I'd also like to point out that, I mean, it's the obvious, but downtown is a collection of buildings that are primarily owned by private parties. So we can have all the visions we like, but the best vision that we have was the collective one of the community that had all the input into the downtown specific plan. I'm skeptical when I hear anybody, and so many people have their own personal opinions as to how downtown should look, but we've vetted that through a lot of meetings with a lot of community input where everybody can have a voice and a seat at that table to say their comments. And the result was the downtown specific plan. And executing that plan has been a challenge because, again, we get people that don't, business owners. We tried to buy, for example, a few years back, the old Wells Fargo building to make that a piazza kind of area, you know, a square. And that property owner did not want to sell. Same with some property on the other side of Monterey I personally was involved with, didn't want to sell. So all we can do is encourage and make it attractive for property owners to want to put tenants in their buildings, to want to improve their buildings, to want to do things, but the city doesn't own downtown. And unless we're going to do eminent domain, we don't get to choose what a private party does with their property.
Very good, thank you. Marie, we're going to come back to you with this question. If elected, what 3 steps would you take to put our city on firm financial footing?
Okay. First, the financial recovery and sustainability thing. And the way I would address that is adjustments to our workforce, which is something the council has already started, and across the board. It's not just in one department, but across the board. Assist and promote the existing businesses to survive this pandemic. Aggressive advertising and promotion through what we've done with Visit Gilroy and the Chamber of Commerce, and the small grants to help them stay open a little longer. And to get going now on that economic development plan, starting with those 3 initiatives, since that's what we've got on the table right now, something we can work with. Those would be the things. Repeat the question one more time. I'm not sure I'm answering all of it.
Sure. If elected, what 3 steps would you take to put our city on firm financial footing?
Okay, 3 steps. So adjust the workforce, assist with our existing businesses, and the aggressive economic development plan that is ready to execute within a year's time. As soon as this pandemic lifts and businesses are ready and investors are ready, particularly the recreation and tourism ones, we need to be ready to go.
Very good. Thank you, Marie. Reid.
I agree. We need to take a look at our costs as a city, but I think the better opportunity is to look at our revenue. And I think that instead of looking at taxes, we should look at where we're already paying taxes, which is the federal government, the state government, and the county government, and take the best opportunities that we can. And it may be a question of renegotiating how we share tax dollars. It may be that the city should spend more time getting grants, getting money to do things. When we're getting the roads fixed here in Gilroy, those are actually county money. Or when we fix up our parks, it comes from state money. Or I'll use a more specific example. We had the Miller Red Barn in Christmas Hill Park on the ramp side. And the city was convinced they didn't have the money. It didn't justify fixing the building. But there were a group of people who felt it was important. They looked around, they found some county grants to fix the building. And the building's more than halfway done getting fixed. It's got a foundation, it's got a roof. So I think we could be more aggressive in that. Real quickly, the second thing is corporate money to be spent in our city. When you go to, I'll say San Francisco, it isn't the San Francisco ballpark, it's the AT&T ballpark or the Oracle ballpark. And I'd like to have a city where corporations like Syngenta or Olam or Christopher want to put their names on things. And so we get the money that way. And then finally, private investment. I think that we need to have a city where people want to buy a building downtown or want to open their business downtown. That's where the money is going to come from. Thank you, Mark.
Very good. Thank you, Reid. Reid, we're going to come back to you on this next question. As one views the national landscape with regards to defunding the police, what is your position on funding, defunding, or redirecting funds, and why?
Okay. I'm not an expert on this subject, obviously, but I know from talking with our police chief and listening to conversations in city council, if we have a certain level of expectation of service, of safety, of communications, the budget we've committed to fits that. And there's not a margin for trimming. There's not wasted money in something like this. Also, if we're talking about having something like more mental health services or social workers, the amount of money that we would trim from the police department budget is not enough money to make any difference whatsoever. We need to make more of a commitment. If we're saying that really when we have a homeless person, we want to send out a social worker instead of a policeman, then we should have more social workers, not less policemen. So that's kind of how I feel about it.
Very good. Thank you, Reid. And Marie?
Yes. I am not in favor of defunding or redirecting anything away from our police department, but I do support timely evaluations of our policies and proper training of our officers and good screening policies for hiring officers. I believe we already have that latter one. Scott Smithy has been great with how he goes about hiring our officers. I support them fully. I think it's difficult enough to get people to want to be police officers these days at all. I am completely sympathetic to the bad ones that are out there. There is no doubt in my mind how horrible and awful and a complete abuse of power that's happened in our country and all over. But in Gilroy, what I support is those evaluations of regularly, timely, looking at what our policies are, like we're doing now, addressing them, making sure that we have the best department that we can. But public safety is big for me. That is an essential city service, whether it's police or fire, and that is not something that I would look to take resources away from at all, unless for some reason we had half the population go away in Gilroy. But since we don't, yeah, nope, not at all.
Okay, very good. Marie, we're going to come back to you for this next question. This is regarding the homeless challenge we face in Gilroy. Homelessness is a growing problem for many, not just for those who are homeless, but for our community at large. What do you believe can be done to address the homeless problems Gilroy faces today, and how would you implement your solutions?
All right, as if that's a question for a 2-minute answer. We're providing more affordable housing options is the answer. We look to the following, okay? SB 330 passed, effective January of this year. Statewide effort to increase housing. In Gilroy, it means more people will likely build ADUs. It provides incentives for affordable housing developments near transit centers. And as a VTA board member, I can tell you that VTA has used much of its land in the county for transit-oriented housing already. And the parking area by Gilroy's transit hub downtown is owned by VTA. So those are ways that we're trying to address housing the homeless, or housing that is far more affordable, including supportive housing. Then there's Destination Home from the Office of Supportive Housing in the county. And their housing ready community initiatives brings together neighbors, community groups, nonprofits, government and housing developers to take action and support approval of new supportive housing and extremely low income affordable housing in Santa Clara County. Then there's Measure A that was passed in 2016, where the voters said, $1 billion, we want you, county, to do this. We want to provide supportive housing for those who need it. So we're on our way with that. That we can't build it fast enough, that we can't get developers to take it on is a different issue. We've provided the funding for it. So that is something now that we want to just stay on top of and promote, make sure that it's evenly distributed throughout the county so that all cities benefit from that type of housing for their communities. Unfortunately, the problem doesn't end there. Where the problem instead is a desire to live without rules or expectations, or one of mental illness, we as a society need to address what it actually means to help someone. Some might define help as providing a place to get food or shower or temporary shelter, but none of those things is the kind of help that solves the underlying problem or gets at the root of the cause, and therefore can't ever be something that we get ahead of. So the city council we were supposed to have a study session last Monday. It got bumped because of the fires. It's postponed to September 8th. My proposal is an ad hoc committee that we get together with a few council members to organize and steer this very discussion to vet workable solutions together with county services.
Thank you. Reid?
May I have the question again, please, Mark?
Of course. Homelessness is a growing problem for many, not just for those who are homeless, but for our community at large. What do you believe can be done to address the homeless problems Gilroy faces today, and how would you implement your solutions?
Okay, we have some very good organizations working already here in Gilroy to help solve the homeless problem. There are groups like Community Solutions and Valley Health Center, which deal with the mental health part of the equation. And I'd like to see more funding for that, because I think that's something that could be fixed. Councilwoman Blankley talked about affordable housing. And I think the part of the problem is we don't have enough low income housing. Affordable housing means you earn 80% of the county average income. In our county, the average is over $120,000. So that means you have to earn over $100,000 to afford affordable housing. So I think we need some more low-income housing. I agree with Marie that it's not the city's job to build this housing. The housing should be built by private developers and or the county. That's the job, that's where the funding is. I'd also like to make a clarification that in Santa Clara County and in Gilroy, there are no homeless veterans. They are the #1 group on the list. There is housing available today for a homeless veteran if you are one or know one. I'd also like to point out just a fact that gets a little mixed up sometimes. 50% of the homeless people are women. And it really hurts me when, I sometimes go to the homeless shelter and you see women with bruises on their face and you know it's because they're homeless by circumstance. We can do more for the homeless. And I think the best thing that Gilroy can do is work more with the county, the state, and the federal government. And I'd like to see homeless people out of our creeks, but in a campground on Water District property. And I have spoken with the Water District, and they are amenable to that. Thank you.
Thank you both. I'm going to stay on this for another question here. Depending on who you talk to with regard to homelessness, one person may say, well, the homeless are working homeless. And it usually depends on their encounter with a homeless individual. Someone else may say it's the drug addicted or alcohol addicted individual who's living down in the creek, who's creating problems or stealing from my business. We know that there's sheltered and unsheltered homeless when we talk about the numbers facing South County. We also know that the working homeless really don't create the problems that we face in Gilroy. It's those who are drug addicted, alcohol addicted, mentally ill, those who maybe choose not to. I don't know of many people who would choose not to live in a home. But we also know that there's just a wide range of varying types of reasons why people are homeless. And it's the ones that become the greater challenge to our society. Those who are causing problems for business, causing problems for our residents. Those are not the working homeless. Those folks we need to get into affordable housing. But those who are, as I said, drug addicted, alcohol addicted, they need services beyond what we can provide them in our city. What are your thoughts on that? I don't expect you to say, well, I've got the answer right here. But what are your thoughts on that with regard to these numbers? I have heard that the numbers in the unsheltered category, which is nearly half of our homeless population, 80 to 90% of them are drug addicted, alcohol addicted, and mentally ill. Marie, I'm going to start with you. Just your thoughts on that. I don't expect to hear here's how I would solve it, because it's not that easy.
No, I would have thought you were one of us with that speech there. I haven't heard that 80 or 90% number, so I don't know if that's accurate or not. But it's kind of what I was alluding to was with respect to the addictions and mental illness things, we as a society are going to have to look at how we define helping somebody. I know I spent one entire season working at the Armory, helping that when during that time that it was open to have people come in, and there was lines of people wanting to come in because you mentioned you didn't know of anybody who wouldn't want shelter or a house if they could get it. Well, I can tell you from personal experience, there were plenty who didn't want to go there because they couldn't bring alcohol in with them. And so those are the things that prevent them then from using services, because they're not allowed to bring the alcohol or drugs or needles or anything else. That has to stay outside. So that sometimes is what keeps people out. How to define help is the big thing, because I don't know, are you helping somebody who's drug addicted and can't take care of themselves, or mentally ill for that matter, can't take care of themselves, is living out on the streets? How are you actually helping them by knowing that they're there and just letting it be? I don't know that I necessarily call that help. I also know that from personal experience with family members, you can't have someone who refuses to help themselves or refusing to follow any kind of rules live with you, because then that's putting into danger anybody else who's living in the house. So that's why I want the ad hoc committees to address how we define help, and what do you do with people who are refusing to take advantage of the services that are there that would help, that they could go to, but they don't want to, because that makes them have to address the very reason why they're out on the streets.
Thank you, Marie. Reid, your thoughts on that?
Okay, my first thought is city council can't solve this problem. No city council can solve the homeless problem in their city. That's not how it works. I was chairman of the board of the Gilroy Compassion Center. I've worked very closely with David Cox at St. Joseph's Family Center. I work closely with the leader at the Salvation Army shelter. There are many reasons why people do not use a official shelter. At the Armory, for instance, everybody is in one big room. Most women don't want to go there because they will be assaulted. It isn't that they may be assaulted, they will be assaulted. They don't have beds at our Armory in Gilroy. You get a mat. It's kind of like the mat that you take to yoga class. And you're correct, there are things you can't bring into the Armory. You can't bring your dog or your cat into the Armory. You can't bring oversized bags into the Armory. You're not supposed to bring food into the Armory. People snore in the Armory. So that's not a perfect solution. It's not a one size fits all. I think as a city, we need to be aware of the problem. I think we certainly don't want to be the cause of the problem. And I think we need to support people that are trying to solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Reid. It's a complex problem, and it is going to take complex solutions. So I appreciate both of you providing your thoughts on that. We're going to move on, and Reid, we're going to go to you with this next question. The Chamber recently published a community vision document, which can be seen at gilroy.org for anybody who's interested in reviewing that. This document was put together collaborating with nearly a dozen agencies covering approximately 9 areas that affect the lives of Gilroyans, businesses, and guests of our community. What are your thoughts on this document, and how can you see it being used when considering policy decisions?
I've reviewed the document, and I think it has some big pluses and some little minuses. So the pluses are, wow, to get this group of people together to come to an agreement about what needs to be done, that's really impressive, because typically what happens is decisions get made in the best interest of individuals or departments. And I really like the way the pieces fit together in the plan. And with buy-in, say, from Gavilan College and the school district, I was pleasantly surprised to see that a number of the things that we've been talking about in the Gilroy Downtown Business Association have been included in here as goals or guidelines. I'm going to, I want to make this all happy, and I'm really positive about it, but you know me, I need to criticize a little bit. And one of my concerns is the cover. And the problem is this beautiful cover of an oak tree and some hills. This isn't Gilroy. This is some land in the county, and it's beautiful, and I love it. But I think we need to think in terms of a city with houses and buildings. And I hope, and I realize now, Mark, you're a photographer, and I hope I didn't just insult you by saying something about this. I really apologize. And I'm going to also go to the backside where we have a picture of old City Hall. I think it's time to start thinking about new City Hall and where the things are really, where the action is, where the decisions are being made. And yeah, I've only lived in the city 20 years, but I think the best times are ahead of us. And this is very sweet, but let's get real. Thank you.
Thank you. No offense taken. None at all. I am a photographer, and that is actually my picture.
Okay.
But no offense taken. I appreciate your comments on that. Marie, do you want me to repeat the question? You understand where we're going with that question?
Yeah, you want to repeat the very last part of it, just what the actual question was?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. What are your thoughts on this document, and how can you see it being used when considering policy decisions?
Oh, okay. I happen to be very impressed with our Gilroy Chamber of Commerce, and I have been since the 90s, even back when I was on the board, and Susan Valenta was who we brought in to be, your predecessor, Mark. And maybe because it's my subject matter, right? I'm a CPA, I work with businesses. It feels like language that I can understand. So I am very, very impressed with everything that our chamber does. This document touches on all the necessary subjects, from our local economy to housing and infrastructure to tourism and recreation. Like we said, education is something that, I've heard other city council candidates refer to quality education as though, not that, of course we want quality education, but that is not something that the city council oversees. That is its own elected body that oversees what our education is. But as far as our connections go with Gavilan College and with the school district, with respect to how that feeds into our employment base and how we can make sure we have people trained for the kinds of jobs that either are here or could come here, then that is absolutely a connection to make. So I see this as a document that can absolutely help guide if we want to come back to it. It's not completely detailed, but it's, and public safety, of course, is in it too. It's not detailed as to exactly what steps need to happen to do it, but to use it as a guideline. I mean, that, if you're asking me, those are exactly the topics and the way to approach them.
Thank you both. This is our last question before we get into you allowing, getting your opportunity to say and to tell people why they should vote for you. But here's the last question. How would you describe your leadership style, and how will you interact with differing opinions on the city council? And I think, Reid, we're going to you first.
Oh, well, got 2.5 years of doing that already.
We'll go to Marie first. That's okay.
Oh, did you say Reid? Sorry.
You know what? I think we started with Reid on the last one, Marie. I'm sorry. Let's go to you. You were prepared to go for it. Go. Sorry for interrupting you. Go ahead and.
Right. No, I was just going to say that I've had 2.5 years of that, and it is an art, and I'm still working on it. It's hard. It's hard to remember that no matter how passionate you are about something, the skill has to be in getting at least 3 other council members to see it the way you're seeing it, because you can't move anything forward without a majority of the council going at it. So going off and spending time with my idea or my this without communication, without collaboration, isn't going to help. So it's hard when something, things haven't gone my way. I was not in favor of proposing a sales tax, for example. I was absolutely not in favor of offering home loans to help attract executives to work for the city, the department heads to help work for the city of Gilroy, to come work for the city of Gilroy. I was absolutely against the budget that we passed in 2019, the 2-year budget, because it failed to, it added expenses. It failed to take away monies from areas where we were adding money. So it was a net add. So there's been plenty of experience with me not getting my way, but that's how you have to take it. The important thing is knowing how hard I tried. So as long as I know that I brought something forth, as long as I'm comfortable with how I explained it, with how I presented it, with my research in it, how thorough was I? Did I stay calm? Because that's my problem, is not staying calm. Then I can be proud. I can be proud of how I presented it. And if the vote just doesn't go the way I would like it to, well, then that's the way it is. It's no different than just out in the real world. I very much respect people who are passionate and give their all to things. And just because I can't convince them to agree with me, doesn't mean they aren't worth my time. They have their own opinion, I have mine, and leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Reid.
Can you repeat the question, Mark, please?
I'd be happy to. How would you describe your leadership style, and how will you interact with differing opinions on the city council?
Okay, well, my leadership style, I would say, would have to be inclusive. I want to make sure that everybody who's at the meeting has a chance to hear what's going on and to share what they have to share. I have experience doing a lot of construction meetings where people have different interests, the contractor, the owner, the architect, the neighbor, and I'm able to get something done, get people to agreement and to move on. I've also been involved in nonprofit groups where there are a lot of good-hearted people, but people don't always have the skills to get things done. And then more recently, I've been involved in as chairman of the Gilroy Housing Advisory Committee. I was also a chairman of the Gilroy Housing and Neighborhood Revitalization Committee. So I know how to run public meetings. I also, as I mentioned before, I used to be president of the Downtown Business Association, and people would come with exactly opposite of ideas of what ought to be going on. And I was somehow able to find some middle ground between people. So I'm going to have to say I'm kind of a moderate leader, and it's important that everybody be included in the decision.
Very good. Thank you, Reid. Reid, our final question, our closing question goes to you now, and that is basically, why should people vote for you for mayor?
People should vote for me for mayor because I have the skills and experience to help revitalize our downtown. And I think that revitalizing downtown is something that's important to all of us, whether it is because we own property there or because we want to buy there, or maybe it's more abstract. It's kind of where the heart of the city is. And I think that if we make some minor changes to the way that we do business, that we will be a more attractive place for people to do business and invest. I actually look forward to working with Marie. If Marie is not elected to a mayor, she remains on city council. And I do respect her skills after several years of the knowledge about how the city budget works and where there's little room to clip or little room to expand. So I do look forward to working with Marie and the other folks on city council. But I'd like to be able to bring a little different skill of project management, of focus, of getting different groups together and making some progress in our common vision of what downtown should be like. And I'm pretty sure our common vision is a family-centered place, a place where you want to take the wife and kids, or a place you want to take with your buddies, or you want to hop on a bike and come downtown and see what's going on. And I think we're pretty close to being there. It's just going to take a little hard work. So that's why you should vote for me for mayor of Gilroy. Thank you.
Thank you, Reid. Marie, why should people vote for you for mayor?
Because I'm running to protect the well-being of the town that I love. Nobody could love Gilroy more than I. That's not true. A lot of people do. I've been on the council now for 2.5 years, and I think it takes some experience on the council before you run for mayor. I think other city council members know that too. And we struggled this year, a lot of us. We understand what that means, and the reluctancy to run is because you understand what that means. It is very difficult, and it is particularly difficult today. And I'm in this because my background as a CPA is what we need most today. Financial stability is the biggest issue we face today. The relationships that I've established with county and state is something that Gilroy residents deserve, to keep that preserved. Gilroy residents deserve my background as a CPA to address these things. The accomplishments that I've managed to write out on my website in only 2.5 years is something that Gilroy residents deserve. You can go look there and see what I've been able to do in such a short period of time. And even though there's still a lot more to do, government works incredibly slowly, and the council keeps changing, and success can only come in being able to have a workable council. And for years, we've had councils that just stagnate. And so it's very hard. I'm very proud of what I've done in the 2.5 years I've been on the council. I think I am absolutely the most qualified candidate to be your next mayor. And I think I am what Gilroy residents deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. Marie, what is your website? What's your website address?
MarieBlankley.com.
Reid, what is yours? Oh, I'm sorry, you're on mute.
ReidForMayor.com.
Very good. Marie, Reid, thank you both for being with us tonight and taking time out of your schedule. We appreciate it, and wish you both the best of luck. Everyone out there, remember, November 3rd is Election Day. Be sure to vote and make a difference in our community. Again, thank you all for joining us. I'm Mark Turner with the Gilroy Chamber of Commerce.